Hey there, Charizard for the win here. I'm back in the sewers. We're talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm reviewing the first season of the 2003 series now. So, I actually grew up with this series, so I have a little bit more nostalgic towards it. I just want to say that, so I'm generally going to appeal to this one more than the others, just because I grew up with it, and I watched it as a kid and stuff, so I really have already enjoyed it, and that enjoyment will continue to attach on to me. So this version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they are going more like the comics, so a little bit more darker. A little darker and a little grittier. And I think they did a pretty good job with it. Now, I haven't read the comics, like I said before, but, so I don't know how well it follows the comics, but generally it looks like they take a lot of the same ideas. So for starters, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're all fine. Okay, I want to talk about the theme song, actually, because I like talking about the theme song. This theme song, I think, is the best because this show actually has the best music of it all. The original show, it had good music for throughout the episodes. Whenever they would just play like an instrumental version of the theme song, but that theme song is really catchy, so it helps. It makes it fun. And this version, the theme song, they make it full out like rock, grunge, epic, everything that little boys like. Every boy like rock and roll. Yeah, this show was awesome. Everything that little boys like, and they did a really good job with it. I think. I think this song is awesome. I love it absolutely. But that's partly from nostalgic. But yeah, it's great. It has great visuals. They take more liberties with they changed the animation style. Is instead of just basically straightforward, sometimes they play around with the it's not really, it's like, so they try to make it more like a comic by playing around with the frame rate. Like sometimes it'll go widescreen, sometimes it'll show 2 or 3 things happening at the same time with comic panels type format. The movie Hulk did this a little bit, but I think it's done a little better here. It's done even better in animes, and I think if they took a little more ideas from that, they would have had it like done really well. Because it works in some parts, like whenever it goes widescreen, I think it looks really cool. Because generally widescreen looks better, but also some parts where they're trying to show like different angles of the same thing happening, it can be a little more distracting. What animes usually do, which I think they should have done a little more of, is it'll show like the reaction of multiple different characters at the same time on the screen. Like it'll have the one character like here, then another character here and there and stuff like that. So I think if they did more like that, it would have looked a little better. Sometimes the other thing they do is they have like a shot of the turtles doing something, then it'll like push it to the side of the screen to reveal something else happening on the other side of the screen. But the way they do it, it's not like they cut the frame, they actually squish the image, so suddenly the turtles will be really skinny or really fat or something, and it looks dumb. So if they could actually have done that properly, it would have looked fine, but for some reason they just squished them over. So that looks dumb. But generally I like the idea, and I like that they're trying something a little different with the style of it. And the music is great also. They have the the Ninja Turtles theme. They repeat that motif throughout the show for different things that are happening, like whenever the turtles are sneaking around in the shadows. Oh, I love it when they're silhouetted and jumping on the rooftops in the theme song. It's also in a couple episodes, and I always think that looks great. But yeah, the fight music is great. The Shredder has his own theme whenever he shows up. You're like, ooh, because it's one of those kind of things. It's hard to explain it after the show clip, but I'm too lazy to do that. The fight music is great. It's kind of Japanese themed, like they have different Japanese instruments. More, I guess, ninja themed is a better word, perhaps. And yeah, it's really cool. I think all the voice work in here is fine. The voice work in the first show is fine too. I didn't really touch on that. But one voice I noticed is April O'Neil is actually played by Ash Ketchum, the same actress who played Ash Ketchum. So it sounds weird to have I think it's funny that Ash's voice coming out of April's body. Anyway, it's just it's also a little distracting if you're a fan of Pokemon. But it's fine. So yeah, let's actually talk about the characters now. So this version, they do develop the characters to have their own personality a little bit more. Michelangelo is much more of a joker than the rest of them. Donatello does machines, and that's about it. Leonardo does lead, but he has this more to him. He's more passionate about it. He wants to protect the turtles. He wants to be a really good leader. He wants to be the best of them, and he tries his hardest and stuff like that. So there is more to Leonardo. They do almost make him sort of the main character. Now, my favorite turtle is Raphael, because they really do a good job with him in this version of the Turtles. He's my absolute favorite, especially this version. They make him a total asshole, and it's awesome. He's basically just a jerk the whole time. He wants to just fight people, and it's really great. I just love that type of character because it makes for a really interesting scenarios, because you have the characters argue because one of them is just a jerk, and it's great. I love it. Like, there's a few episodes of just Raphael, and they develop his character, and they're really good episodes. Like, most of the times those are just kind of filler episodes, but they do a really good job with them. Like, there's this one, I'm shaking the camera too much, my hands getting tired. Like, there's this one where he meets up with this little kid who's lost, and who's lost his mother, is trying to find her and stuff like that. And you think that the kid would just be really annoying and stuff, and that is part of it, because he is kind of annoying Raphael. But they do a really good job with that relationship, and it's I think they just really knew how to do Raphael. So he's just a great character. I love him. Okay, so Splinter's pretty cool, just the old guy. He does kind of actually want to attack the Shredder, which I think is awesome. He's like, yeah, I'm after revenge, because in this version he was owned by Himano Yoshi. He was a rat, and then he continued to be more like a human, like the Turtles did. But Himano Yoshi was killed by the Shredder, and so Splinter wants this, like, is after revenge, and that's really cool, because he actually straight up tries to kill the Shredder, like, on a couple occasions, and that's pretty badass. So I like Splinter. I like whenever we get to see him fight, which isn't too often, but we do see it happen, and he is awesome when he does. He feels a little more wise in this one. And the original, he was fine, but I don't know, wasn't much. I guess there was more mystery to him. But in this version, he's pretty straightforward. But I think pretty much all the versions of this Splinter are fine. And this one, they do a good job as well. Now, April O'Neil is pretty much sidelined in this version of the show. She's not a reporter in this version. She originally worked for this guy Baxter Stockman, who was in the original show. He makes the monsters, and then in this version, he's a great villain, I think. But anyways, she works for him. He turns bad. She leaves and meets up with the Turtles. They try to give her some relevance by making her like a computer hacker. She has different skills in that sense, but she really doesn't show up that much. And even when she does, she doesn't do a whole lot. So the original April is a much better character. Now this other human character they have is Casey Jones. They make him a really important character. I'm not sure exactly why. He wasn't in the first season of the original Turtles, but I think he does show up eventually, and he's in the comics. So I'm guessing he's a little bit more of a big character in the comics. I'm not sure. But this version does seem to be more like the comics. Anyways, he's basically just a vigilante who has this grudge against the Purple Dragons, which is this gang in New York. And he just tries to fight them all with baseball bats and stuff. And he's a lot of fun. He's kind of an idiot, but he's good friends with Raphael, so I like that, because I like Raphael. And he does help out the Turtles, and he can be really funny at some parts too. Okay, so the villains. The Shredder, I think, is done fantastically in this version. Most of the time he's just in his his human, but you don't see him right away, and they did what the original show did with the Turtles, but with the Shredder. You don't really see him right away. Sometimes he's just in shadow. and then eventually we do see him, and he looks totally badass. He has that same epic presence, very similar to Darth Vader. Just that's an awesome looking guy. He just looks really cool. This version, like when he has his mask and stuff on, all you see is glowing red eyes. He doesn't look like he actually has a face, which is pretty damn cool. And yeah, he just has this epic presence, and he's a much more threatening villain. Not nearly as funny as the original Shredder, but he's not meant to be in any way, so it works. Then you have a couple other villain type characters like this guy Han, who's basically just a henchman for the Shredder. He also leads the Purple Dragons, which is this gang. I like what they did with the gangs and stuff in New York. It really feels like it's a shitty place to live because there's all this crime and stuff. They really show a lot of that. Like, they made a few characters, like, one episode they're just hanging out with all these hobos because they're just a bunch of homeless people and, that they are chilling out with. One thing is strange that they do is, when April meets the turtles, she's like, what, you guys are talking turtles? That's weird. But when Casey meets them, he's just like, oh, okay, hey, how's it going? Like, he doesn't, and they do that with a few other characters too. They don't really seem to be that surprised that there's talking turtles. Where in the original show, everyone's like, what? Ninja Turtles? That's ridiculous. Because it is. And it makes sense for them to touch on that in the original show. But here, it's basically like, oh, Ninja Turtles? Okay, I get that. That makes sense. So that's not really realistic in any way, but yeah, it's not that. It's kind of dumb. But it's weird because they do it with a couple characters, but not all of them. Sometimes they're like, oh, those are weird costumes you guys have and stuff like that. But sometimes it's just, oh, you guys are Mutant Ninja Turtles? Okay, I get that. Yeah, okay. Han is basically just a henchman. I'm going back to talk about the villains. Now, Baxter Stockman, I think, is really cool. Just what they did with him. He was in the original show. He made the monsters that attack Splinter and stuff. He does that here too. But then after that, he's working with the Shredder. That plan he has fails, so Shredder punishes him. And the next time we see him, he's missing an eye. After that, he has like some other plan to stop the turtles. He fails again, and the Shredder punishes him again. So the next time we see him, he's in a wheelchair. He's like missing an arm as well, and he's in like a robotic wheelchair. So it's like he probably doesn't have any legs either. So I think that's really cool. And basically, he's like, "Oh, I'm a genius. Shredder doesn't appreciate me," and stuff like that. And what he does at the end, in the climax, when they're fighting against the turtles are fighting against Shredder, he builds this huge robot body and tries to kill them all, basically, which is great. I think he's a really fun character. He's mostly just this evil scientist type guy, but I really like that the show we don't see what happens to him, but the next time we see him, he's has a major injury. So they imply what happens and they show the results, but you don't actually see what happens, obviously, because it's more of a kids show. It is technically a kids show, so it is still light in tone for the most part. Like, the turtles never stab anyone or kill anybody, but I feel like it works in this show. Like, the foot ninjas are just ninjas. They're just regular people. And the turtles just end up knocking them out, which I think makes sense because the only real killing weapon is Leonardo's katanas. The sais are more for disarming, and the nunchuck and bow staff are just for hitting people, so it's fine when those weapons just knock them out. Then you have Leonardo, who sometimes will either like kick the ninjas or hit them with the blunt end of his sword, which is fine because they're supposed to be the good guys, so having them kill the bad guys I don't think is that great idea. So I think it's fine when they're just knocking them out. So then, yeah, it's basically the turtles are fighting the crime and the foot ninjas. That's most of the plot. Eventually, they fight with the Shredder, and Splinter knocks him off a building, but he's okay because he's just Shredder and lives through anything apparently. later on, the Shredder gets revenge or whatever, and blows up April's store and apartment, which she was living at, where the Turtles were too as well, and basically to defeat the Turtles for that part. Then later on, they come back and they just assault the Shredder's tower, which is this huge building, and basically have to go through all the floors beating up foot ninjas and whatnot. And they straight up say, "Oh yeah, this is like a video game. We have to go through this," and it totally is. There isn't a whole lot of it's just action. That's the what I'm trying to get at here. Is for a lot of it is mainly action. The action is really, really good. So if you like ninjas fighting and stuff, definitely you're gonna enjoy it. But there isn't a whole lot of anything else happening. It's mostly just the action, and I think it's enjoyable. I definitely enjoyed it, but there isn't much more than action, especially in the last couple episodes of the season. Now it's interesting that what they do with this season is the end. Spoilers, but whatever. It's from 2003. They talk. Okay, so they take the tower. They take over. They fight through the Shredder's men and stuff like that, and then they fight against the Shredder. Leonardo is the main one who goes up against him and ends up decapitating him completely, which is awesome. And then they're wondering, wait a minute, where did Splinter go? And what happened to Splinter is there's these, I believe they're called Guardians, throughout the series, who are the actual main enemies of Shredder. Now, we don't actually know why at this point, and you don't really find out much about them, even when you do find more about them at the end of the season. So the season finale, I believe, which I think is the finale, is they fight the Shredder and stuff. And then there's these Guardians that pop up every once in a while, and they're against the Turtles, and the Turtles just kind of show up more in mostly they were just hiding in the sewers, but now they're out doing stuff. So what the Guardians and Shredder are saying is, you guys have just kind of wound up in the middle of this huge thing that you don't even understand. And we don't really see much else about it. It is revealed later on in the series, but not really much in this season. So by the end, the Guardians are helping them fight Shredder in the tower, and then Leonardo decapitates the Shredder, and they can't find Splinter. He's missing. He was with them fighting, but then now they don't know where he is. What I think is great also is at the end of the episode of that story arc episode, the Shredder picks up. After he's dead, he gets up and then picks up his head and then just walks away like a total badass. And we don't really find out how he's able to survive that until the next season. I remember, but I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen it. Okay, so then after that, well, whatever. After that, there's still a couple episodes left of the season. So they're like, okay, where did Splinter go? So they're trying to find him. They come across this company called TCRI, I believe that's the acronym, which was the same company that had the radioactive ooze that made them mutate into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So they track him down to there. They break into this building, and they find all these Ooptrons, which are these aliens that have human bodies, human robot bodies, and then which have the stomach open up and reveal that there's an alien inside, kind of thing. That they're and these people are who the Guardians are, basically, is what we discover. Now, I do believe they found Splinter in this facility once they broke it in. Yes, and then what happens is they're fighting off all these aliens and stuff, and they end up on this platform, which looks like it might disintegrate them. It doesn't exactly show what happens, but basically they all glow, and then they're gone. And then one of the Uhtron guys is just like, oh, they're gone, and then the season ends. That's the end of the season. You have to wait till next season to find out what happens. That would suck, because it looks like they're pretty much dead. And I don't, like, I remember what happens because I've seen the show before, but if you were watching this for the first time, what a, like, crappy end of the season. You're like, damn it. Like, it's a great, I mean, it's really good, but it's kind of like an epic cliffhanger. I think that's the best way to put it. So, yeah, it would really get you like, damn, if you were actually watching the season for the first time when it was actually airing. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, all this doesn't really get revealed until later on in the series, which I think is fine as well. But you think, I don't know, I think it's strange that this season kind of wraps up. They defeat the Shredder and so much, and then this other story arc happens, which is really just the introduction to the next season. So I guess it's fine, but it's just kind of interesting that they wrap it up but then keep going. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool different things in the show. I think for the most part they do a really good job with all the action and stuff. The characters themselves they're okay. Raphael is really good, but that's about it. Generally, it's an improvement, I think, but it is a totally different tone, so it is a little bit hard to compare it to the original. But it's very good, and I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. One thing this show does really well is it has a couple episode story arcs, which makes it easier to watch all of it because there's 26 episodes as opposed to just 5, which is like, okay, just kill 2 hours, done. But in this, there's 26 episodes. But every once in a while, it'll be like, Notes from the Underground, Part 1, and then you can see how this story arc goes, and it's like a 2 or 3 part episode. So it's much easier to watch, is binge watch the right word, where you just watch a show, all of it, in like one sitting or whatever, in little amounts of sittings, I guess. That makes it easier to get through, at least. Not that it's like, oh man, I have to watch the show, it sucks. It's like, it's enjoyable and it makes you want to keep watching. I think that's the better way of putting it. So it does a really good job with that aspect. I like all the different story arcs. The tone is great. I like the characters are pretty good, except for a couple of them. Shredder's total badass in this version, and yeah, I think they did a really good job. So good job, and that's about it. See you next time where we talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 2012 series.